So the Lord began to tell me about things in 2007, began to show me things that were going to be happening, and things like Egypt. He said, watch what's going to be happening in the Middle East, and here's a sign for you. Egypt. President Mubarak is going to be removed from office, and Egypt will turn into a terrorist state. When that begins to happen, know that the rest of the Arab nations that do not espouse religious extremism, Islamic religious extremism, understand that they will be deposed under a false guise, and a harsher regime will take each of their places, including Saudi Arabia. And it will begin, watch Egypt. He said, begin to watch the European community. He said, because I'm going to trouble the waters in Europe, and the euro is going to start to fall, and it will weaken and it will crumble. And he said, and then shortly after that, your dollar will follow. And I'm going, oh my goodness, Lord. He said, my people are going to cry out to me. I said, when? And he says, it will keep getting darker until they do. It will keep getting darker until they do. In March, I was on Daystar TV, and the Lord had me prophesy about a coming assassination attempt upon a congressman. Little did I know that in August of that year, that would happen with Gabby Gifford. There will come times when the stadiums are full because nobody can afford to pay the prices to go to a New York Giants game, or a Jets game, or a Patriots game, or a Cowboys game, or a Rams game. Nobody can afford to pay the price. Even this year, tensions in Israel and Iran are going to escalate. The day is going to come when Israel will hit Iran. They already have hit. There were mystery explosions that happened. And the Lord told me about this. He said, Israel will one day send in rockets into Iran. He said, but before that day happens, there will be other explosions that will be called mystery explosions. And those have happened. But one day it is going to happen. And when that takes place and those missiles hit Iran, there's going to be a huge growth of anti-Semitism. And everybody's going to blame Israel on the price of gasoline. You're going to see incredible backlash that happens. And you're going to see OPEC countries forming an alliance that says we'll not sell to anybody who supports Israel. So America, if you want gasoline, you better stop your support of Israel. Israel will become a difficult thing, and Jerusalem will become a couple trembling. It is going to happen. And it's going to happen not years from now, sooner than that. And everything is going to begin to change. We're going to see the dollar collapse. We're going to see a new American currency. We're going to see a new global currency. We're going to see a new one world currency. We're going to see a new one world order. We're going to see a whole different economic structure set up between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. We're going to see a whole new structure set up with the European Economic Community. We're going to see a whole new thing that's going to be going. The United Nations is going to get stronger. The EU is going to get stronger. We're going to see Turkey rise seemingly out of the ashes and become an incredible force in the Middle East with darkness in the core of it. Right now, Turkey seems to be rather demure, but Turkey will not remain demure for long. And you're going to start seeing Russia take on a whole new nationalism, and Russia's going to create a crisis in order to spawn nationalism because it realizes it's losing its youth. And so Putin coming back in is part of the whole thing that the Lord talked to me about, where Putin and Medvedev would begin to clash. Putin would end up taking over, but there's a third guy behind the scene that is even more ruthless than that. And he will end up showing up on the scene. He's not on the scene yet, but he will be on the scene. And Putin is setting the stage for his coming. He is not the Antichrist because the Antichrist comes from somewhere else. But it is part of the whole end time scenario. And Russia's going to end up blackmailing many of the small satellite nations that used to be part of the Soviet bloc and demanding that they come into a whole new alliance and a whole new agreement. And Poland will be blackmailed. I hope they do not succumb. I've got to give a message to them in the spring when I go there. Czechoslovakia, the Slavic countries, Hungary, Romania, Ukraine, Pakistan, all these are going to be blackmailed by Russia. Says if you want our oil and you want our gas, you will come back in. Because if you don't, we will close the pipeline tomorrow. And they're waiting for the price of gas to get up high enough so they can close the pipeline to those countries and still be able to function economically in their own state. But they have to wait till the price of gasoline gets up high before they can cut the pipeline off. This is what the Lord showed me. I mean, I was going into these details with me, and I'm going, Lord, I don't think I can retain all of this. He says, yes, you can. Here, he told me about, he said, the earthquakes are going to be coming. Earthquakes are going to change the tilt of the earth. And so we had the Chile earthquake, and the earth tilted. The tilt changed. We have the New Zealand earthquakes, and the earth tilt changed. We have the Japan earthquake, and the tilt of the earth changed. And he says, when you start to see this happening, when the tilt of the earth changes, jet streams are going to change, weather patterns are going to change dramatically, and countries are going to experience climatological changes that they've never experienced before, and it will cause the loss of crops. Whether it be fruit crop or wheat crop, grain crops, vegetable crops, you're going to see the loss of crops because jet streams are going to change because the tilt of the earth changed. Just 1 degree change, a half a degree change, can mean hundreds of miles in the change of a jet stream. And it says that when this begins to happen, cracks are going to begin to form in the shields of the earth. And when that happens, the sun is going to begin to rise up again. It's going to awaken, and there will be he didn't say CME, as I just discovered what coronal mass ejections, what that type of stuff is. But he just said eruptions from the sun are going to come, and the energy from the sun is going to seep through the cracks, and the day will come when it will wipe out many of your satellites. When that happens, no cell phones, no ATMs, no bank transfers, no TV. When that happens, and the day will come. In fact, there will be airplanes in the sky that can't land. And they have to figure out how they're going to land because they have no satellite guidance system. It's all going to be visual. This type of thing we are going to face this type of thing if we do not cry out to God. The moment we cry out to God, He will stop the process if it's a sustained cry. But the problem is if we don't cry out, this is what is coming our way. It is headed our way. There's so much that is about to take place in this nation. There's so many things. There's other assassination attempts that are going to be coming. I'm not a part of any of that. I just know what God has shown me. There's anger that is going to be erupting. Violence is going to be in the streets. Rich houses are going to be neighborhoods are going to be invaded. What the Robin Hood mentality of what's yours is mine is going to spread. And all you're going to be seeing in multi-million-dollar neighborhoods is chimneys left standing and burnt chars of the houses. Violence is going to become so prevalent, police forces will not be able to take care of it, and even the military forces will only be able to take care of it in the urban areas and not the rural areas. And even all urban areas won't be able to be taken care of. It will be so widespread. Our military will be coming home, the Lord said. Finance is going to force you to shrink the size of the military. It will end up causing cracks to form in the military and end up allowing your country to be invaded if you do not turn your heart to me. And so as I'm starting to read, I'm starting to read about the shrinking of the military. I'm starting to read about the numbers of, they're no longer going to have, they're cutting X number of tens of thousands of military positions. I've started reading about what they're doing. I'm going, oh my goodness, it's happening. It's happening. Has there been military excess? Probably. I don't doubt that. But I also know this is what the Lord said. This is what's going to be happening. Your army is going to start shrinking. Your protection is going to start shrinking because you're going to think, the pride of your heart is going to say, we don't need it. We're going to see There are going to be tornadoes that end up coming because of the changes in the jet streams and the climatological changes. They're going to have to invent a higher category of tornado. I think the highest it goes to right now is F5. I think it's going to have to go to an F6. Whatever the next category is that they don't have, that's what they're going to have. Because they have never measured wind speeds of tornadoes this high before. That's coming. Hurricanes that are over 500 miles wide are going to hit this nation. Volcanoes are going to erupt again in the northwestern part of the United States. Cities will be dramatically impacted. There will be things that happen that are just unheard of. The shape of the United States will change if we do not cry out to God. See, here's why. You say, why does all this happen? It boils down to the Garden of Eden, and that is this. Whenever man fell away from God, he began to decay. Everything he touched began to decay. And the Lord said it kind of like this, and the earth will no longer yield itself to you. Drought is going to continue to escalate in the lower half of the United States. So much so that, just as it says in Revelation chapter 6, a loaf of bread, there may be bread, but what it's going to cost you will be enormous. So much so that they will have to put guards on trucks to keep trucks from being robbed for their food. Earthquakes will not only strike coastal areas, but even the Midwest of the United States. There will be places where hail falls, and it will be over a foot thick of hail. There will be softball sizes of hail with 24 inches of rain in 24 hours. There will be tornadoes with such force that automobiles will become airborne missiles. The Lord told me that there would be a pandemic that came, but the first one would prove to be little but fear, but the second one that comes will be serious. So there's a pandemic that is going to be coming. There will be changes in our gravity. As there's a shift happening, it will happen in the magma of the earth. Changes will happen in the gravity fields. Look for notifications of changes in the gravity fields. And also with that will come heating of the ocean's floor and the ocean's changing temperatures. And that will end up killing a lot of fish and everything else in the ocean. China's escalation is not by accident. It is planned, and it is strategic, and it has a design to be the lead power in the world. There's a commercial paper bubble that's about to burst in the commercial markets, commercial real estate markets. He told me in 2007 there's going to be a move for people to start growing their own foods. And boy, has that happened. And by the way, if you're going to buy food, do not buy anything that has been genetically modified. It won't reproduce itself. And there's coming a blight in genetically modified crops that they think they're blight-proof. They're not blight-proof. When this thing hits, it will spread like wildfire. So you'll see nearly entire crops like wheat or corn. Some grain product will be one of the things that will be seen, but also in tomatoes. He said, you need to pray for President Obama's protection. There's a plan to take his life. He said, whether you agree or disagree with him is not the question, son. It is pray for his protection. I've commanded you to pray for his protection. The Bible, my word, commands you to pray for his protection. That all will be well with you. He said the worst thing that could happen is for him to be taken out. I'm not talking about reelected or not reelected. I'm talking about about taken out. The worst thing that could happen would be for him to be taken out. He showed me, I don't know what city, but I know it's a coastal city, and the result was from a dirty bomb. And a dirty bomb blew up in a coastal city, and it was uninhabitable for over 30 years. It was that level of radiation that was released. Well, he told me, if you have the opportunity to buy rural land, take it, because it's going to become very valuable as people flee the cities. He said this country is going to cut most of its foreign aid programs, and as a result, international dictators will multiply. He said there's a growing anarchy that's going to come from the gay and lesbian community, and there will be reports of mobs maiming and torturing heterosexual men. And he said there will come a time, he said, also watch for men, homosexual men, being able to carry a baby through organ transplant. So transplanting of a uterus and the ability for a man, because of technology, the ability for a man to carry a baby. He said many large churches are going to end up filing bankruptcy because they can't make the building payments. And that the church, he said the church has taken on the concept that numbers means anointing. And and he said, and so they compromise my word so not to offend in order to keep the finances. First, the church must learn how to contend for the faith again. We're weak and we fall away so easily when crisis hits. We've not been tested and we have lost our resolve. And we understand little of the adversary's plans. We do not know how to, he said, the church has lost the ability to debate their faith without becoming angry. And thus we have so few strong, clear, godly voices in political arenas. We've lost our witness, the witness that convicts others and strongly testifies that God is still God and will still do what he has always done. As a witness, we are to prove God exists. We have to return to the knowledge, to more than the knowledge of God. We have to return to a craving to know God. I mentioned that last night, that it's not just knowing about God. We have to return to a craving to know him. That's intimacy with him. The concept, Abraham knew Sarah and she conceived. That idea of close knowing of one another. Third, the church must return to the love of God's word and the belief that it is infallible and inerrant in its original form. This would include the conviction, understanding, and knowledge that God is absolute, and there's only one way to know him, and that's through Jesus. We need a new revelation of God's omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence, eternality, and immutability. That's why I talked about it last night. Because until we understand that, we will lose heart in the midst of a battle. But if we know our God is nothing can defeat him, nothing is smarter than him, nothing knows more than him, until we know those things, our faith will weaken and we will tremble when signs in the heaven come. I believe if you read Jeremiah 30, you'll find we're in a time like that. Don't have time to go over it, but it's Jacob's troubles. We are there. But here's what Psalm says for us. Psalms 24 regarding Jacob's troubles. He shall receive blessing from the Lord and righteousness from the God of his salvation. This is Jacob, the generation of those who seek him, who seek God's face. Lift up your heads, O ye gates. Be lifted up, you everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. See, it is in Jacob's trouble that the King of glory will come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord, strong and mighty. The Lord, mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O you gates. Lift up, you everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory. Selah. If we turn to seek the Lord, there's going to be a much clearer definition of Christian, which means much more persecution. It will not include the term lukewarm. Those who seek the time, who will ascend to the hill of the Lord in Jacob's trouble? Those who have a clean hands and a pure heart, who are not vain or puffed up in their thinking. You will live in the thick, holy presence of God. That means you will hear him and be guided by him. The gates of heaven will open to you, and those spiritual questions that have been difficult to understand will now become easy to understand. The everlasting or ancient doors will open, meaning the ancient spiritual truths that have been hidden for a long time will be revealed. They're in the Bible, but because we're blind, we can't see what they mean. It's not like it's a new scripture. It's all right here, but we are blind. We have eyes that see, but see not, and have ears to hear, but hear not. The might and strength and power of the Lord of hosts will come into your circumstances, into your situations, and he will fight, and they will fight on your behalf. And the Lord of glory will come into your house.